Hi and good evening to Saritish and my friends. Today we are from Group 5. We will present about the compound machine. First of all, I am our first presenter, that is Hawa Gayom. Our second presenter is Raif Izzat. Our third presenter is Daniel Fikri. Our fourth presenter is Azmi bin Rusli. And our last presenter is Kalai Maran. Okay, first of all, I will present about the introduction of compound machine. Next slide, please. Next. Okay. Machine is one of the useful thing in human daily life, and it can help human in their daily activity, like they want to chop something, they want to cut something. And there are two main type of machine, that is simple machine and compound machine. In our presentation, we will present about the compound machine. Compound machine is one of the machine that made by two or more simple machines. This compound machine is such as example like bicycle, wheels, and other than that lah. There are more compound machine in our daily life that we have been used. Compound machine should be have three main things that need to be in one machine. That is first of all, next slide. First of all, weight. Weight is the basic machine that use in to separate two object or section of object by applying force of basic machine in the machine. The second one is levers. Lever is a plank or right band that is free to rotate on a pivot. This two is two of the component of the compound machine. And the last one is wheels and axis. Wheels and axis is a very important thing to make one complete compound machine. The last one is pulley. Pulley is a simply wheel with a groove and a rope in the groove. It also called a drum or a shift. This is the last component of the compound machines. Okay, for the literature review, compound machine can develop a performance of the industry activities. As example, like cutting an object, lifting an object. This will be useful in construction site, in baking industry, like baking a cake, or other than that lah. The less force will apply on the tools and the work will be finished faster. The development of the tools in the industry will need a compound machine and a complex machine that will help them to do any activities in all of the industries. Okay, I will pass the next presentation to our second presenter.
Hi, Saritish. My name is Muhammad Rizal. I will continue cluster 1 at discussion and content, and finally is conclusion. For discussion and content, according to the definition and introduction, both force and motions are transmitted and modified in a machine. Although both force and motion are involved in the operation of machines, the primary function of a machine may be either the amplification of force or modification of motion. The motion and force in a machine are inseparable, however, and are always in an inverse ratio. The output force on a lever is greater than the input force, but the output motion is less than the input motion. Although the primary function of some machine can be identified, it would be difficult to classify all machines as either force or motion modifiers. Some machines belong in both categories. All machines however, must perform a motion modifying function since if the parts of a mechanical device do not move, it is a structure and not a machine. And lastly, for conclusion, in the context of machine, we can ask how machine acquire, develop a specific individual or collective behavior. Behavioral development could be directly attributable to human engineering or design choices. Architectural design choice made by the programmer. For example, the value of a learning rate parameter, the acquisition of the representation of knowledge and state, or a particular wiring of a convolutional neural network. Determine or influence the kinds of behaviors that the algorithm exhibits. So, in a more complex AI system, such as a driverless car, the behavior of the car develops over time from software development and changing hardware components that engineers incorporate into its overall architecture. Architecture behaviors can also change as a result of algorithmic upgrade pushed to the machine by its designer after deployment. A human engineer may also shape the behavior of the machine by exposing it to particular training stimuli. And finally, a machine may acquire behavior through its own experience. Similarly, product recommendation algorithms make recommendation based on an endless stream of choices made by customers and update their recommendation accordingly. That's all from me, and I will pass to the next presenter, Daniel Fikri.
Okay, hi sir. I am Daniel Fikri. I want to talk about cluster 2 bearing. Okay, next. Okay, this is a table of content of bearing. Firstly, I will explain about introduction of bearing. Second, a literature review about article 1. Third is literature review about article 2. Next, discussion and content about bearing. And last, conclusion. Okay, next. First, introduction of bearing. The bearing is in present shape was created near the end of 19th century. It was originally hard craft. Bearing are now one of the most widely utilized machine compound because their rolling motion facilities nearly all motion and help reduce friction. Sleeve bearing and rolling bearing on sliding surface. The axle and bearing move in opposite direction in a sleeve or plain bearing. The radial and the axial bearing. There are two types, yaitu radial and axial bearing. Both of version offer which each ball and roller bearing. The choice of bearing design is dependent on intent application. So, a bearing made up to rings or discs have raceway. A rolling component in the form of roller or ball and cast the separate and direct the rolling element. For the picture in right, the roller bearing and the left is ball bearing. So next. So the picture about basic structure of bearing. First one is a radial bearing, second axial bearing, third is case, next rolling element, next outer rings, and last inner rings. Typically, the inner and outer rings are manufactured from high purity chrome alloy steel. Element the roll can be ball, roller, cone, sharp, or needles. Typically, they are fabric from a specific, like a high purity chrome alloy steel. The case keep the rolling components separate and direct them down the race of the rings or disc. The case in responsible for separating and directing the rolling part. So the next one, I will talk about literature review, article 1. So the title is Bearing Fault Classification of Induction Motor Using Discrete Wavelet Transform and Ensemble Machine Learning Algorithms. Bearing fault diagnosis at early stage is very significant to ensure seamless operation of induction motor in industrial environment. This paper present an assemble machine learning based fault classification scheme for induction motor. The proposed method achieve an accuracy slightly greater than 99%, which is a better other model examined for the same data set. The main element of bearing are in the inner and outer rings and last rolling elements. Fall in bearing may occur during manufacturing or after some period of operation. That's all about fall. Fall ni. Next. Next slide. Okay. The data set utilized is in this study was acquired from the Bearing Data Center managed by Paderborn University, Germany, using an accelerated lifetime test. 32 experimental bearing were analysis and classified as each time domain representation of current signal record from three bearing, iaitu healthy bearing, inner rings fault and outer rings fault. It's provided in figure 2 yang tadi. This is a line characteristic frequency health artically damaged or true damage. Next. So next I will talk about literature review article 2. The title is Rolling Element Bearing Future Extraction and Anomaly Detection Based on Vibration Monitoring. In this study, the most crucial component of spinning machinery are rolling element bearing. It is the most significant to detect a bearing defect presently, especially in their early phase. Motor bearing fault diagnosis using ADC and N in 2018, Manjurul Islam and Jong Myeon Kim present a method using 2D cycling spectrum maps to pre-process the raw vibration signal and adaptive deep convolutional neural network to classify the bearing fault. Considering the healthy bearing conditions, for example, no bearing fault as a class, the method attempt to classify the four bearing state. It is a HBC, BRF, IRF, and ORF. The method is test one set of the motor bearing fault data processed by Case Western Reverse University Lab. Therefore, this study apply a transformation technique to train bearing health state in 2D visualization tools. Once the 2D CSM of the raw signal is obtained using improved simultaneous analysis, they could use the ADC-NN for multi-fault classification of obtained the result. Next. Okay, next I will talk about discussion and content about a bearing. Okay, next. So first, I will talk about sliding contact bearing. Sliding contact bearing are tools that operate in sliding friction relationship with the shaft. Bush bearing are a types of bearing that fall within this category. Benefit of sliding contact bearing include it require less radial phase and operates more quickly, especially after a sufficient period of time. However, sliding contact bearings are a number of drawbacks. The most notable of which is the requirement for increased question as well as a higher initial tone. So next slide. Okay, next slide. I will talk about rolling contact bearing. Rolling contact bearing refer to wide variety of bearing. The employ physical ball and another types is roller between the fixed and moving element. Rolling contact bearing have the advantage of requiring less beginning tone and consuming less power. But the disadvantage about rolling contact bearing have the most significance of which that's the manufacturing process difficult and that's associated cost and higher. So next, I will talk about lubrication of bearing. Lubrication is served to reduce friction between the rolling member and prevent corrosion of the bearing. So, oil lubrication is confined to certain case. For example, installing bearing in machine that are already lubrication with oil and which is difficult to isolate the lubrication of bearing. From that, the other components of the machine are two situations, which is a bearing should be fit. Okay, so following that, a general guideline for recommended lubrication period. So the timetable ni the explain about recommended lubrication and berapa dia punya bacaan dia yang sesuai. So next slide. Okay, so next I will talk about why does a bearing fail. This is a two situation. First situation is a poor mounting. Localized damage to the race track such as a nick, score mark or indentation is indicative of improper mounting. The second situation is brinelling. Brinelling is caused by static overloading should and vibration on on a stationary bearing, such as during shipping, and electric currents passing through the bearing. So the last one, next. Okay, the last one I will talk about conclusion of bearing. Bearing play a critical role in our daily life. Yet it's precisely because of their significance that we must continually seek to improve their precision and duration. In addition, it is crucial to the advancement of machine technology that we continue to produce bearing that operate under increasingly demanding and specialized condition. Bearing will continue to evolve and improve our standing of life by making the each go round. So that's all about cluster 2. So next I will pass to next presenter iaitu Azmi bin Rusli.
Okay. Hi, Saritish. My name is Azmi bin Rusli. Today I will present about maintenance. Next slide. For the introduction of this topic, maintenance is repetitive task to ensure that the machine is working properly so that it can profit the desired performance without intentional or unintentional damage. Next, the main role of maintenance of any production system has a great impact on the entire system. If appropriate maintenance procedure are not provided uh, for certain setting, it will cause problems with the machine, either or over maintenance or under maintenance. Therefore, maintenance engineer should have intensive knowledge and experience of various types of equipment and machine. Next slide. Next, literature review. I will explain about article I have take, which is the maintenance management of equipment in a manufacturing company. First, the concept of maintenance is very important in any production. Equipment maintenance should be done when the machine start experiencing a problem. Second, maintenance tasks have the right time, which is the number of employees and working hours. Action carried out in condition-based maintenance must be properly understood so that they can determine based on the system. Based on the study that manufacturing company mainly carry out planned maintenance equipment at 50, 51%, while corrective maintenance is at 19%. Next slide. We continue with the second article, which is a review of maintenance optimization. First, the recognition of the importance of effective maintenance planning is driven by continuous automation of production process and increasingly competitive market. For example, operation and maintenance costs for offshore wind farm account for a quarter of life cycle costs, making them one of the largest cost components for this asset. Research that consider that the reservation of part for components that will only be replaced after failure, but includes research that optimize the decision of the differentiation and maintenance of parts simultaneously. Second, regarding maintenance action, the difference between preventive and corrective maintenance action. Okay, preventive maintenance action are performed before unit failure, while corrective maintenance action are after failure. Preventive maintenance action should be planned. Two types of condition monitoring can be distinguished. Condition that can be monitoring continuously and condition that are monitored by performing inspection. Last, if the inspection if required for monitoring condition, whether differentiate suggestion can be made regarding failure identification. That's all for me. Next, I will pass to next presenter, Kalemare.
Hi sir, thank you for my friend to giving chance to present my presentation. Now I like to present about discussion and content. Okay, the first point is maintenance help in identifying the cause of failure. For example, whatever the failure is due to a design defect or a wear failure. Next is maintenance is to guarantee that every piece of machinery used is always running at maximum efficiency. Next is by maintenance, smaller issue can be found and fixed. For example, the problem grow into big issues that could shut down a manufacturing line by doing quick daily inspection, cleaning, and small adjustment. After that, the advantage of maintenance. Okay, doing routine preventive maintenance. For example, the benefit of maintenance is the safety of the operator and the machine. For example, it becomes dangerous to the operator and the machine. Minor machine damage must be repaired right away. Next is the effectivity of the machine. Prevent maintenance of the machine can ensure optimal working condition and can maintain the lifespan of the equipment. Next is time saving. Minor hiccup in machine operation could result from planned repair, but this won't be taken seriously in comparison to the actual delay brought on by the breakdown. Next slide. Type of maintenance. There are two types: corrective maintenance and prevent maintenance. Corrective maintenance. This type of maintenance is to keep the equipment running smoothly so that it can perform its intended function. Uh, Prevent maintenance. Before damage to the machine occur, a group of technicians and supervisors will usually perform this maintenance. The sole purpose of this maintenance is to reduce the possibility of equipment or components being damaged or deteriorated. Next slide. Maintenance tool and function. First is glove. Workers who often use adjust, sanitize, and cleaning agent benefit from wearing gloves. Next is earplugs. To prevent ear losing maintenance, personnel who frequently use heavy powered tools should wear ear protection. Next is safety glasses for safety their workers' eyes. Next is screwdriver. Uh, Used to tight and loose screw during repair, building and installation is a screwdriver. Next is clean sandwich. This tool used to remove and tight bolt nuts having a hexagonal head. Next is handsaw. Cutting materials including wood, metal and plastic requires the use to handsaw and hacksaws in maintenance. Next slide. Conclusion. In conclusion, maintenance is an important thing to ensure that a machine can run perfectly and have a long lifespan. Properly planned maintenance will benefit an organization. Organizations that do not have a good maintenance unit have the potential to experience losing due to the failure of machine or equipment to function properly. Regularly maintenance will provide benefit to the organization from various aspects. Thank you, sir.
I think that's all from our group, sir. Thank you.